Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about improving the performance of our web apps and websites hosted on Azure App Service. So just to give you a bit of an overview of my problem, this is my portfolio site hosted on App Service. I've got one website here that's just taking a long time to load. The reason I'm having this problem is there is a feature in App Service called AlwaysOn. When that's set to true, App Service will ping the website every 10 minutes or so to keep the website active. If AlwaysOn is set to false, Azure will redistribute the compute resources assigned to your App Service environment after a period of time. When the web app or website goes idle, it will take some time for the instance to rehydrate. So can be good for saving costs to set this feature to false, always on to false, but not as great for our user experience. So what I'd like to do is set up some automation to be able to set this feature to true or set it to on at 7 a.m. in the morning and then turn it off at 7 p.m. at night. You can achieve this with a particular PowerShell script, and that PowerShell script looks like this. So I've got 3 web apps in particular that I'd like to apply this to. And to achieve this, we can run this PowerShell command here. Now, it's a bit of a work for me to run these commands 2 a day, so I'd like to see is there a way that I can automate this. And there definitely is in Azure. We can use Azure Automation. Azure Automation will allow me to run scripts like PowerShell and give it a schedule so I can achieve my objective. So to get started with automation accounts, we can come over here to the Azure portal and we can create an automation account. I'm going to put it in the resource group of where the web apps that I would like to affect are, and just give it a name. This particular setting here, I just want to bring your attention to system assigned. It'll be enabled by default. Able to allow automation account to run, it will need to authenticate with Azure on every time it runs. So I'll just create the account first, and then I'll talk about a little bit about what I mean. This is what I'm talking about here: system assigned managed identity for an Azure account. We need to tell Azure that we authenticate our automation account, even though it sits in Azure. So there are 2 ways we can achieve this. The first way is running by PowerShell. I would recommend running PowerShell commands to do this. It's much more simple. But just so I don't expose any of my own subscription IDs, I'm going to achieve this doing the Azure portal. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to enable a system assigned managed identity for an Azure Automation account. That was already done, achieved when we did the setup, so that's great. You can see here there is the PowerShell command that you can use to achieve this as well. So the next step is we need to assign a role to system assigned managed identity. So this is looking at our role-based access control. So we need to give our automation account the permissions to the resources of which we would like to affect. Now, best practice is you should take the principle of least privilege, but for simplicity, I'm just going to give it quite a general amount of privilege as well. So we can come to the identity. This object is what you would use if you were going, or need to take note of if you are going to run your PowerShell command, but instead I'm going to do it through Azure portal. So we click here, and here's where we're going to add our role assignment. So I'm just going to add it at subscription level, and I'll give it the role of contributor. So this will actually take a bit of time to establish itself. Even if I refresh, it's not there straight away. And if you achieve some of these processes too quickly, you might actually run into some errors. So if you're doing it this way, this is a step you might want to come back to just to see that it's been done correctly. It's also why I'd suggest using PowerShell. PowerShell will execute things a bit more cleanly. Now we've assigned a managed identity, and now it wants us to authenticate access with the assigned managed identity as well. So this is the script that we're going to execute in some of our runbooks. Runbooks are where we can deploy our scripts or PowerShell scripts. Let's have a look. so runbook. So I've got some, it creates some by default. We can get rid of those just to avoid confusion. All right, great. So I click create a runbook. And the first runbook, and the first thing I want to do is I want to turn on always on. And this is going to be a PowerShell workflow. So I hit create. And here's where I can execute my PowerShell scripts. I want to execute all three of these, and I need to wrap this code in here as well. This is, as we saw before, this is what is going to help us to authenticate our automation account every time this script runs. Just copy and paste all of this. And hit save. Now we've got the ability to test in here. So if you run a test, this will tell you if everything's being configured properly. If you get errors in this stage and you assigned or you created the assigned managed identity using the Azure portal, maybe wait a little bit and then run this test again, because you may get errors because it hasn't been set up yet. But we can go ahead and run the test now. All right, this is great. We can see that our test has been completed. Okay, so now after our test has been complete, the final thing to do is hit publish. I have noticed a little bit of a bug with the Azure portal. Sometimes I'll hit publish and it won't actually publish it. So what we have to do is we have to go ahead and create another runbook. Yeah, see, this is the notification that I want when it gets published. I'll just delete this one for now, which was the older one that we'd created. All right, great. Now we can see the new one is here. Cool. So we'll create the other one to turn off always on. And yeah, PowerShell workflow. It's going to be the exact same thing, except we're just going to set these values to false. Doesn't look be good if I had the shortcuts for same as in Visual Studio Code. All right, great. Save, publish. Yeah. So now what we'll do is we'll create a schedule. So this is where I can set the scripts to execute at a certain time. So I'll set this to start from tomorrow, and turn on I want to have happen at 7 a.m. And then I can set the reoccurring to every day. I'll then create another schedule that says turn off. Again, this will start tomorrow. And I would like this to execute every day at 7 p.m. All right, there's my two schedules here. Let's go have a look at my runbooks. All right, so I go into the first runbook to want to turn off always on. I can come over here and click link to schedule. I can then assign it to the schedule of which I want to have. So for turn off is where I want to have it here. So click OK. To turn on always on, and I'll link this one to schedule turn on. Okay, great. And then we have it. That's automation. So my Azure App Service will be set to turn always on in the morning, every morning at 7 a.m. And it will be set to turn off every day at 7 p.m. So hope you found this helpful. Let me know if I missed anything. Thanks for watching.